again, guys, and welcome back. We're going to go with the final assembly review of Hobby Design's Supra Modification HD03-0492. As you can see here, we've got all of the body panels on, as well as the deck lid, spoiler, bumper, side skirts, and rear fender pieces. So this is just going to give you sort of challenges I ran into, as well as some sort of measurements as where things needed to go. So starting off with the bumper, we went ahead, I went ahead, and when I was trimming this, I followed the bumper separation line because it doesn't really give you any sort of clear indication on what to cut and where to cut. It just kind of gives you the where it's supposed to end up when it's finished sort of picture. So I went ahead and followed the separation line here on the front fenders, and then moved on top of the headlight buckets to where it meets the stock bumper. I have it here, and then right where the transition from the bumper to the headlight is, we cut up there, and then alongside the headlight on this side, straight down on the top, and then the same on the other side. And it got it pretty close, but as usual, with some warpage issues that happens over time with the resin and things sometimes not fitting properly. If you get it close and then use files and sanding sticks and just trimming areas where it's catching and getting caught, just to get it to fit into its final position. And you can see here it fits relatively nice. There's a bit of a step here and a gap as well. I tried clamping it from every other direction, and then we used some dental curing acrylic powder with cyanoacrylate to really lock this in, and then fill any gaps from the underside. But there is a slight gappage issue going on this side, but the fender fits flush. Same isn't really said for this side of the bumper. There's a noticeable step going up to the top of the front fender from the bumper. However, there is no noticeable gap in between. So just something to consider when building your kit. I haven't installed the lights yet, and these pieces go here, and I was going to paint those separately. This was smoothed down with sandpaper with the mold the mold pour spouts removed. Other than that, fits relatively nicely. So if you get it close enough, then you can trim it to make it fit. Now the fenders, and I'll show you the measurements that I took for the front here, because if you just follow the bumper separation line, it matches exactly. But with the front, it doesn't really there's no separation line here. So I'll just show you a picture of the measurement that I took, that I got roughly to get it close, and then went from there and trimmed it. There was a noticeable amount of resin that I had to remove at the tops of the side skirts here. It kind of came in more, not as excessive, but it came more into the door. It didn't really follow the door line as well near the top. So that was just scraped away until it fit properly and then clamped into place. There's a little bit of a step between the top of the fender, or the bottom of the fender here, and the top of the side skirt. That can be sanded away, but again, that's not a perfect fit. And then again, these were all secured in the same way with the dental acrylic and Cynar acrylate, and same with the left side as well. Again, got it pretty close. And this side was pretty clean. It didn't really have any steps or marks. Moving on to the rear, rear of the rear quarter panels, or the it's not really a bumper, it's more of a fender edition. So with these, again, I'll show you the picture of the measurement that I took to get the distance here from stock, and then the distance from the wheel well over now I initially tried on this side. I initially thought, well, fitting it up, I thought it would fit if I follow the bumper and rear quarter panel separation line. However, it didn't. There's almost, as you can see, this much of a gap that I had to fill in. So I just took the bumper piece and trimmed it off, glued it back on, and then made my adjustments from there. But in the end it fit, so I'm happy with that. A little bit more tricky to get this one to hold. I'm using these little metal clips here. I can bend these to kind of get around the curvature and get everything to hold down tightly. Even that was a bit of a difficult challenge. Holding it with tape is tricky, but again, getting fitment here is kind of key. Lining up the tabs on the back with the actual inside surface of the body does leave some notice. It leaves it sitting proud, so that's going to have to sand it smooth, as well as the back here. Same deal on the right side. And then the only tricky part is this little tab piece right here, and getting that to, or like notching that with a hobby knife and using a small file to cut that little notch out. When you initially do these two straight cuts, then it kind of sits out here a bit, and then you can kind of mark where the top of it is, and then slowly work it in, fraction of a hair by a fraction of a hair at a time until it sits nice and flush in the wheel well. And the same thing with this side. This one kind of sits a little out. I couldn't get any way of clamping it on, so for some reason it just decided to separate. So I will have to try and either glue it back in with some hotter CA glue, or I'll just have to sand and trim that off when I go to prepping the body. But yeah, so that's really the only difficult part, was these rear fender pieces, because as you can see, this side here goes actually past the bumper separation line. However, this one on the left sits short of it, so it's not the same on both sides. Whether that's due to shrinkage or just due to the way that the parts were made, I have no clue. But anyways, the deck spoiler here, there was a little radio antenna kind of in the middle. I sanded that smooth, and then just kind of lined it up even all the way around. There is a little bit of space in between the two. I'm not sure if that was due to shrinkage as well, or whether that's just the part is a little bit smaller. But it fit great everywhere else when clamped down, and I used 3 of those clips, one on either side and one in the middle. I secured it down with CA glue, and it looks quite nice. Now the reason I left off the spoilers is because I wanted to glue them onto a piece of stock to paint and put decals on them separately, and I'm using this trunk lid spoiler here. There are 2, again, either radio antennas or something, little tabs, I'm assuming for the stock wing, that were located on either side. Those had to be removed so that this sit nice and flush. Had these been designed with those little tabs in mind, they could have either used them as a placement, like a locking placement tab, but you know, sitting on the actual thing with no glue or filler, it fits very, very tight to the body. There's no flex. I don't have to press on it to get it to fit in there. That's just resting on there nicely. So just making sure that this is level and glued in straight is going to be your only concern when it comes to that. The same thing with the GT spoiler, because it's got those 2 little pieces that mount on either side first. My advice would be to paint this up first, get all of the metal hardware attached first, and then painting those supports third, gluing that all together or having it ready to go, and then you know, aligning it on the body properly, and then gluing it in as one of the final stages. So maybe using a thick gel CA type so that you don't get spillage on the final body color, or using some, you know, using it temporarily to, or some white glue temporarily to lock it in place so that you get them mounted correctly to spray it with the body, would be my advice and suggestion. With regards to the rear diffuser, the kit, it provides you with a locking tab in the front here, and then these 2 sort of slotted holes here on the ends. Now what these are supposed to do is they're supposed to lock into these guys and then the rear bumper. However, if you can see, this one is slightly more forward than the right side is slightly more, I guess if you're looking at it from the back, it's slightly more bent to the rear, and this one is slightly more bent to the front, as well as they're offset. And when we go to put this on, you see that this sits crooked now, and the front locking tab does not actually lock into the rear of the bumper. So that is something that you probably want to address. I think what I'm just going to do is leave this part off because I want to do something a little different, and just cut these off. If you're going to use the Drew diffuser, my best bet would be to either try and cut these off and relocate them, or find an alternative method to mount the rear diffuser here to the actual body. And it looks like you can actually just kind of glue them on to the side here, maybe from the inside with a thick gel, and then again on the top here, just gluing that little bit to the rear bumper to make it fit. Last but not least, well, actually for all the little ancillary bits, all the photo etch and whatnot, I'm going to kind of show that in the final reveal. But the one more glaring, obvious sort of downfall of this is the hood. Now, the hood is very nicely made. It looks spectacular. However, you can see here I've had to cut and notch the holes for the hood hinges. And that is because this hood is narrow compared to the stock hood. And as you can see, there is quite a large gap present when the hood goes on. So what this is going to mean is I'm going to have to get some strip styrene and fill that in and sand that smooth to get that hood to fit properly. I'm just holding it and getting it aligned with the front of the bumper here. You can see that the hood sits flush on one side but doesn't on the other. So it's slightly warped in this direction, most likely due to shrinkage because this is an older kit, and then the bumper doesn't actually line up correctly, so that'll have to be adjusted. So I might put this in some boiling water to try and reshape it, and then clamp it down and see if that has any effect. But yeah, then you kind of see the nature of what I mean by that large gap in there. So that's going to be a little bit of a pain, but anybody who's really building resin kits has a knack for scratch building anyways, and it's just going to be part of the deal when it comes to doing these resin kits. But overall, very nice body kit, very nice accessories and ancillary products, as well as I like the fact that they gave you the two spoiler options for these. So yeah, that's going to do it for this portion of the Supra build, as well as the review on Hobby Design's Supra modification kit. Hope you guys liked the video. If you want to see more videos like this, leave a comment, like, subscribe, and press the bell to make sure you see when I get new videos out. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and have a good one.